How has Orphans of the Storm prevailed for 90 years? It wasn't done alone, but it was founded by one young woman named Irene Castle, who had a passion for abandoned animals.
She had an idyllic childhood, and as she grew, her talent and grace led her to a marriage in which she and her husband, Vernon, became popular ballroom dancers.
She was a trendsetter and a fashionista for her time, and was frequently photographed in magazines with a small dog under her arm.
After her husband Vernon passed, she later married Frederick McLaughlin, the founder of the Chicago Blackhawks, and moved to the Chicago area.
Her husband accepted her love of animals and allowed her to keep a veritable zoo on the premises of their Lake Forest estate.
In 1928, she decided to open a shelter for stray and abandoned dogs and cats. She found a vacant 10-acre kennel in nearby Deerfield, Illinois.
She named it Orphans of the Storm, after a silent movie that reunited orphaned sisters, and her hope was that the same happy ending would result for homeless animals as well.
Orphans of the Storm was organized to take care of the enormous number of unwanted and lost and stray dogs in the city of Chicago. We found that the Anti-Cruelty Society and the City Pound were having to destroy as many as between 30 and 50,000 a year. We luckily are able to place an average of 3 dogs a day in good homes, and we have on hand an average of 100 dogs practically all of the time for adoption.
Throughout the years, she developed a platform as a celebrity in the media to promote animal welfare. She used her own resources and solicited donations from her contacts in Chicago society to renovate the neglected property.
Irene passed away on January 25, 1969. One of the last things she wrote was, "It pains me to think there is still so much to be done, but we have started, and Orphans of the Storm and what it stands for will survive me for a long, long time."
After Irene's passing, shelter board members doubted they could find another person with the same amount of determination, but Thelma's Warner came to the rescue.
The Chicago Tribune wrote, "Irene Castle gave Orphans of the Storm its heart, but longtime board president Thelma Zwerner has given it the will to live."
Thelma was the head of the Westchester County SPCA and a German Shepherd breeder in New York. In 1957, she moved to Deerfield when her husband Henry got a job in the area.
When Thelma got word the shelter in Deerfield was slated to close, she made it her duty to ensure the shelter remained open. She composed a list of changes that needed to be made to maintain the loving environment Irene had once created.
Her first initiative was to hire a young vet school graduate, Dr. Louis Seidenberg, and together they provided top medical care for their furry patients.
They implemented new protocols and commissioned the large North Kennel and Veterinary Clinic, both of which are still in use today. In efforts to update the shelter, she held fundraisers and increased advertising.
She also started writing articles for the Chicago Tribune that featured descriptions of animals in order to promote adoptions.
The shelter was soon open 7 days a week with live-in caretakers tending to the animals 24 hours a day.
Thelma dedicated all of her hours to renovation projects in efforts to find loving homes for the animals. At times, she even funded the projects herself.
Thelma made a lasting impression on the growth of the shelter and guided it to become one of the largest shelters in the country to date. Thelma passed away in 1994, and her legacy was continued on by her son Richard. Thelma instilled a strong sense of compassion for animals in Richard at an early age. That compassion followed him in life as Richard spent many hours working side by side with his mother as vice president.
Richard worked hard to improve the quality of the shelter as a whole by accommodating the animals, employees, and the community. One of the largest projects was the cat wing. In 2003, renovations were done to create a perfect cat space. After noticing a spike in cat adoptions, Richard decided to undertake further renovations. In 2014, it now holds 200 cats.
Another project of Richard's was the 7.5-acre woodland preserve, dedicated to his mother. The project transformed an unused area on the shelter's grounds into a tranquil woodland where dogs can exercise and relax.
These additions forever changed the adoption process by allowing animals to bond with their potential new owners. Richard also had the vision to provide a safe space to care for the cats with feline aids.
Richard expanded the mission by increasing off-site adoption centers located in Northbrook, Highland Park, and Gurnee. He also championed the recently built Ruth Helen Wolf Animal Hospital, which now provides the finest medical attention for animals of the shelter and the community. Additionally, Richard spearheaded the Good Neighbor Project, which lined the fences of the shelter with greenery to reduce noise and create a more welcoming environment.
Not only did he care deeply for animals, but for the employees at the shelter as well. Under Richard's care, all employees were given health insurance, paid vacation, and medical leave.
He renovated the office and housing for on-site caretakers for a more comfortable space.
Most importantly, Richard knew all employees by name, whether they worked in the kennels or the front office, and was someone for them to confide in.
Thanks to the hard work and dedication of Irene, Dick's mom Thelma, and Dick himself, Orphans of the Storm has grown to become a major force for the well-being of dogs and cats in the Chicagoland area. I now have the honor and privilege to follow in their footsteps as volunteer president of this wonderful organization. For 90 years, Orphans of the Storm has made such a difference to individuals and animals in our community. We have a wonderful staff and a small army of volunteers who provide companionship, care, exercise of our animals. We're also grateful to our generous donors for their commitment to making Orphans of the Storm such an integral part of our community. In 2017 alone, we broke all previous adoption records and were able to place more than 2,600 dogs and cats into the loving homes that they deserve. We thank you all for your support and look forward to many more years of bringing the joy of pet ownership to families throughout the area.